back to Green Mountain Mornings here on 100.3 FM AM 1490. I'm your host, Olga Peters. My guest for this segment is Randy Holhut of the Commons. Hello, Randy.
Hello again.
Hello again. And I want to let listeners know that this segment of Green Mountain Mornings is being recorded by BCTV. And broadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight on BCTV is sponsored by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. Talk to me about the parking garage.
Yes, the big monstrosity on Flat Street that's so big it pops up on Elliott Street that people have been complaining about ever since it was built.
This is true.
But the perception of that garage as being a dangerous, scary place, is it? Depends on who you ask, I suppose, but it does get kind of dark and scary in spots, especially if you're an out-of-towner visiting.
Mm-hmm.
And also that the building tends to be a place for people who don't have a place to stay to congregate. The stairwells, what happens when people stand around and they don't have a place to they can call home? Mm-hmm. You got to go to the bathroom somewhere.
And you have to sleep somewhere.
And in a place where there's not enough of either, guess what happens?
Mm-hmm.
Your parking garage ends up being the toilet.
Yes.
And people sometimes witness people doing that, using the parking garage as a toilet. And it's not exactly one of those things the Chamber of Commerce likes to tout.
Well, and these concerns were raised at a recent select board meeting, correct?
Yes, that the perception of what are you going to do about people pooping and peeing in the parking garage?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, well, what can we do?
Well, one thing the board talked about was changing out the lighting in the parking garage to be brighter lighting. However, I think once again, this is one of those situations where what can a municipality do? What actually is in their power to do something? I mean, they can paint the parking garage a different color. They can add lighting. They could even find ways to lock up the stairwell or what have you. But really, what is in their power to fix as far as growing poverty in this country?
Especially when the town is already kind of getting the stink eye from the ACLU for the panhandling laws.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Which I had Jay Diaz from the ACLU on the show this week. And it was interesting because I said to him, well, what does a town do? I mean, if the police department receives a call from a community member to say someone is panhandling, I don't feel safe, or it's annoying, or whatever they say to the police department has to try to have some response. And yet, so they're kind of dually responsible to both the person who just called, but also the person who may be holding a sign on the bridge. And, again, what does a municipality do about that?
Yeah, because it's still a free speech issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I was under the impression that the approach that the Brattleboro police was taking is that yes, so long as you're not aggressively doing it, following people around. If you're stationary in one spot with a sign and a jar in front of you, that's permissible. But when you're camping out by an ATM machine doing that, or by the pay and display machines in the parking lots, and occasionally jamming them up so that you have to use your coins.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard stories about that of the dollar bill slots being mysteriously jammed.
Oh, I hadn't heard that story.
But no, I mean it's only an issue apparently and legally. I think the ACLU would agree if someone gets in your face and asks you for money.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, even walking up to someone and asking for money is still considered protected speech. It's more, you're right, if they cross a line into aggressiveness.
Yeah, and that's a purely subjective thing.
This is true. This is very true.
And then we go back to the same problem of that we're seeing, for all the talk about the Trump economy, how great it is right now. Of seeing more people on the street in Brattleboro.
Yeah.
Of people sleeping in Planty Park. Or of seeing more panhandlers on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Of just seeing this subculture of people that society would just as soon have go away, but you can't make it go away. Mm-hmm. They're part of society, and you have to deal with them. And find help for those who need it.
Mm-hmm. Now the governor did announce. Oh no, not the governor. I believe it was Bernie Sanders' office announced some more money will be coming to Vermont for affordable housing, and there were projects in Brattleboro and Putney that will be receiving some new influx of money for affordable housing, which of course is one of the nuts that need to be cracked when you're trying to get someone back on their feet.
Unfortunately, the other nut that needs to be cracked with that is convincing people that having housing like that in their neighborhood is not going to be a problem. Because, of course, the NIMBYs can turn out and force it at the municipal center or town hall and complain when something like that shows up.
Have you heard of any complaints recently for any of the, let's say, the Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust projects?
No, because they usually are very careful about that. The last time the Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust has gotten slammed for trying to do something was when they tried to put in something in downtown Putney over across from Basketville in the former near Basketville, and people just went nuts. But that was about maybe about 10 years ago.
Okay.
But they've just opened up another housing project, but it's right behind Curtis's Rib Shack.
Mm-hmm.
over going down the hill toward exit 4.
Yes.
So it's out of sight, out of mind there.
Is it open yet?
I think today, either today or tomorrow or sometime soon.
Oh.
It's a grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's got an email. You have to check what date it is.
One of the many emails you get every day.
Yeah, I get a couple hundred a day.
So let me ask you, Randy, since you have been covering the town of Brattleboro for many a year now, much longer than I have, what has the poverty, are you seeing an increase in poverty yourself? Are you seeing any trends or changes?
Well, the trends or changes are is the panhandling. That's something that's relatively new.
Okay.
That used to be just rare that somebody would pop up standing in front of say in the traffic island at Hannaford's or Price Chopper with we'll work for food kind of signs. But then it started just migrating into Brattleboro, where you're just seeing people camped out in the vacant doorways on Main Street with signs, or on the bridge, on the Gilbert Bridge on Lower Main Street near the Co-op, or Whetstone Pathway turning into a kind of staging area for people. Mm-hmm. And I know that some of this kind of stems from the party that used to go on behind Dunkley's Machine Shop,
right,
being broken up.
Yeah.
and so that's dispersed a lot of the downtown people.
Mm-hmm.
But the transportation center is still kind of a spot where people hang out and where illicit deals happen.
Mm-hmm.
Cars that pull up, people that get into cars and then get out of the cars,
Mm-hmm.
and other things that happen.
Well, now, Peter Elwell, the town manager of Brattleboro, did say at the last select board meeting when this conversation came up, he said, if we look at our data that the police collect, that the town collects, they are not seeing any increase in danger. There's not an increase in assaults. There's not an increase in petty theft, anything like that. He said, so a lot of this that we are hearing in this meeting has to do with people's perceptions of safety.
Well, we've had rashes of break-ins before,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't had a car break-in spree in a while. We had that for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And remember when you were one of the common stories you did a couple of years ago, the one you did the ride along.
Oh, with Kirkpatrick.
And caught some skells in the act of trying to after a break-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was during that they were having 2 or 3 break-ins a day.
Yeah.
At cars, yeah, and it led to quite the bust on a house on William Street.
Yeah, so the activity is still going on. I'm not sure if it's just gotten more discreet, or that. But in terms of, that's the kind of stuff that the tourists don't see.
Mm-hmm.
The people that come to Brattleboro to shop and eat, and it's disconcerting to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But you go just about any urban area, and you're going to see that, because that's where we're at as a country right now.
Right.
In terms of an awful lot of people that don't have a reason to exist anymore. The jobs aren't there for them. The opportunities aren't there for them. You wonder why heroin has become the drug of choice for this era.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of look around you, and it's enough to make you want to take something to take the pain away.
Removing the pain.
And we know it's just it's a temporary thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wears off, and the pain's still there. The pain's still there.
This is
and you're
true.
still there.
Yeah.
And then it's on to the next hit.
Mm-hmm. So, have you had a chance to look at other communities and see if they have any programs or solutions that Brattleboro could adopt?
I've not had that opportunity. I don't know if the people working on the issue have had that opportunity, or whether this is just all overblown and a few people just complaining about it all. But it's a different Brattleboro than it was 30 years ago, and you're seeing things out in the open that you didn't see before.
But that's interesting, because poverty certainly existed.
It did, but I don't want to use the excuse that some use where we're too soft and we're too generous, and that's why people are coming to Brattleboro, because they know they can get free meals and free shelter and cops that aren't aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a little tired of that.
No, it's just that we're actually dealing with the problem other than some other jurisdictions around America that are criminalizing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Or criminalizing it to the point where feeding the hungry and homeless is a crime.
I know, right? Yeah, which is very interesting, because I find that very interesting, because I don't know about you, but I was raised that to whom much is given, much is required.
Yep. In the social gospel, as in whatever you do to the least of us, that you do unto me.
Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, I wish we could solve the issue of poverty right here, right now, but we are out of time. So hopefully those with better minds than ours will come up with a solution. Hey, Randy, it was wonderful talking to you.
Okay.
And we'll talk next week.
Okay.
That's Randy Holhut of the Commons. Here is your weather. I will return after the break.